Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video we are going to talk about the strange, it's fairly strange, yeah, definitely strange story, that is what happened to Suzanne Morphew. So yeah, the question mark just on the end of that one. It's Colorado, so look forward to that. To the city of Salida we go. Located right smack dab in the middle of Colorado and the middle of the Rockies. You know what else is rocky? This case. I mean, here, why, kick the tires when we can just hop in and it's goo time? That should be left on the cutting room floor. This story began on the 10th of May, 2020. That day, a Sunday, nice and warm, getting up to about 24 degrees Celsius. That day was, what we can imagine Suzanne Morphew thought, to be a, perfect day to go for a bike ride. Wink. That'll come up later, but yeah, bike ride. Salida has some beautiful bike trails. So why not go to Salida, which means exit in Spanish, which is kind of fitting, and enjoy the beautiful bike trails. What a pleasant way to start your day. Suzanne Morphew was married to Barry Morphew. They had been married for a whopping 25 years. My. Suzanne, 49 years young, Barry, 52. Together, the Morphews had two daughters, Macy and Mallory, who were both grown up by 2020, and they were, a close, tight-knit, very good-looking family. They had formerly lived in Arcadia, Indiana, before relocating to beautiful Colorado and the even more beautiful house at Puma Path in the town of Maysville, a few minutes from Salida. That house will sell for, in March 2021, 1.6 million of your American dollar dues, not two, perhaps even three bad. Suzanne had formerly been a teacher in a previous life. You might say, because she'd actually only been a school teacher for 4 years, 1995 to 1999, over 20 years before our story begins. Suzanne was also a 2-time cancer survivor, Hodgkin's lymphoma, a person others only had good things to say about. Barry worked in landscaping and construction and was also a volunteer firefighter. Not doing too bad if they could afford a house like this, am I right? It also appears Suzanne ran a non-profit out of her home, the Suzanne Morphew Hope Foundation. Her and Barry were listed as directors, and its purpose, its mission statement, was to, and I quote, address needs of children in various global locations by showing the love of Jesus Christ in tangible ways to address recognized needs. While that's worded very awkwardly, they're a charity. What they actually did day to day. So that day, May the 10th, Suzanne, she was heading out on her little bike, and then later on she was due to meet her daughters for, well, it was Mother's Day. Barry was actually out of town that weekend at a landscaping job 150 miles away in Denver, the daughters coming home from a camping trip. So that morning, Suzanne was home alone, and then went out for a bike ride. Wait a minute, how would anybody know she was going for a bike ride if she was home alone? Good question. So Suzanne went out for this bike ride, apparently, and she never returned. She never returned. Returned from where? Yeah. Later that day, when Suzanne's two daughters tried to contact her and they couldn't get through to her at all, they contacted a neighbor to see if there was any sign of her at home. He popped the head in, had a go around, kicked the tires, and saw jack shit. With nada to go on or off of, at 5:45 p.m. on May the 10th, Mother's Day, they called the sheriff's department and reported Suzanne missing. The last post Suzanne made on her Facebook account was a picture of her and her two daughters. The investigation, well, I mean, at this stage, search, began that very day. The dogs are out in the woods, drones, search and rescue were out in earnest, searching the area she had reportedly gone biking on a bike. It lasted into the final hours of May the 10th and the early hours of the 11th, and then resumed as they had nothing, no sign or clues at this time. Barry raced the 150 miles home from Denver, cutting his trip short.
49-year-old Suzanne Morphew never returned from a bike ride she took on Sunday in the Maysville area. Today, the sheriff's office only used dogs for their search. Now, Sheriff John Spez is saying that there is no need for volunteers and did not comment on whether or not Morphew's bike was recovered by late afternoon today. Now, Morphew had not been found.
This is an ongoing investigation, so if you have any information about Morphew's whereabouts, please contact the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office.
Within 2 days of her flat-out vanishing, $100,000 would be offered, for information leading to Suzanne's safe return, which is strange. Right? It was as if, like from Jump Street, from the very get-go, the investigators suspected foul play, from what began as just person gone into the woods, never came back out. Probably fucking tripped on a rock. Cougars got her, I don't know. The bike ride would even come under doubt. And even the police would later say they think she went missing on the 10th of May. Did she go missing before May the 10th? Was there even a bike ride, or was this something somebody told someone? This will come up a few times in this story, but the police have always been very tight-lipped on what they think is happening, information.
As you know, Suzanne Morphew became a missing person on Sunday the 10th. Her investigation still remains the top priority of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, and it is a missing persons investigation. The question is do we believe she's still alive? We're certainly hopeful she is. Obviously, as time goes by, it gives us concern, but we're searching as though she's alive, and we do believe she could still be alive.
Even the Sheriff's Department said reportedly gone for a bike ride. The police were tight-lipped to the public. They never released what, in these cases, they normally do. For example, no mention of the bike model, clothing she was wearing, the time she left at. 100 people were searching, quite a few, though they never asked for the public's help. Though, to be fair, this is May 2020. COVID was, a thing. At one point, the road leading to the Morphew home was blocked off, as if the police were searching there. Although then again, that's just, due diligence. It was all very weird. Then on the 17th of May 2020, Suzanne has been missing for a week. At this stage, her family, or a member of it, came out, right, with a statement to the public. It was husband Barry, and he released this video.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
It's, hard to keep a straight face on that one. We'll come back to it. Though check this out, right, on May 12th, right, 2 days after Suzanne's missing, Barry, was taking part in the searches. He handed this note to the manager of a store nearby. No contact info on what I presume is a description. Baby blue bike, helmet, biker's clothing. He gave that to somebody, right? It was like, hey, if you see that person, I don't know what you're going to do because you can't call me, So the search continued as the weeks, eventually months, went on. Spring turned to summer, searches continued. Residential properties in Salida, water sites, reservoirs. Police asked people to preserve any video footage from cams, that sort of stuff. In June, less than a month after Suzanne disappeared, Barry filed for guardianship of Suzanne, and this was granted. Barry wanted to sell some property they owned back in Indiana. And summer turned to autumn. Suzanne's bike was found, it was later revealed. Found the day she went missing just off a bike trail, and a personal item of Suzanne's a few days later. But what that meant, you can tell me if you're watching this in the future. In fact, it was revealed that nobody had heard from Suzanne since May the 8th, right? 2 days before she went missing. It was in August 2020 that the facts, rumors, theories about Barry that were, bubbling under the surface kind of finally emerged. It turned out, or at least this is what a member of Suzanne's family said, that he had refused not 1, but 2 polygraphs. Oh dear. Now Barry stresses his innocence the entire time. He was saying the sheriff's department, they're the ones that fucked everything up.
He said he is constantly looking for his wife of 26 years. He also went after the sheriff's department for what he described as their mishandling of the investigation.
He finally broke his silence today. He lodged serious accusations against the sheriff's office charged with finding his wife. The sheriff's department screwed this whole thing up from the beginning, and now they're trying to cover it up and blame it on me. He said, quote, "I've never been asked to do a polygraph. There is nothing that I am hiding. I have given 3.5 hours of testimony to the FBI and the CBI. I've answered every question, every single question."
A construction site Barry worked at in Salida, well, a person who lived nearby, told the police that they had heard big, huge vehicles working away on it in the middle of the night on Mother's Day weekend.
However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
Now, that interview, that plea didn't exactly yangle my dangle, right? So in September 2020, some more things came out about what Barry was up to on the weekend of Mother's Day, May the 10th, right? Other than, some weird construction noises being heard at a construction site he worked at not far from his home. The night before she vanished, the 9th of May, Barry had spent the night at a Holiday Inn in Denver, working away on a landscaping job, right? Well, maybe. In fact, Barry's whole timeline for the weekend is... So when Barry went back to Salida on May the 10th, after, his wife had been reported missing, he called a co-worker to come up to Denver, take his room, and continue on the construction job, the landscaping job they were... the Denver one, right? This guy, named Jeff Puckett, he arrived at the hotel room that night, May the 10th, opened the door, and said the room fucking stank of chlorine, and there were towels everywhere. The hotel later confirmed to the police they do not use chlorine to clean the rooms, and the pool was closed at the time. He had also left behind some letters, property insurance. This guy also said there was no tools left there by Barry. Which, the job. What was Barry going to use to work the job?
So I want to do this on record. Tell me your side of the story, Barry.
Listen, Jeff Puckett was in prison for 9 years.
Still, Barry had hired Puckett for a project in Broomfield, fixing a wall, on what turned out to be the weekend his wife, Suzanne, was reported missing.
So I said, listen, I need to do this job. I will pay you good money to come and help me. I gave him a job and an opportunity. They all jumped on it.
Barry said he'd been planning the project for a month.
That had nothing to do with Suzanne missing.
And Barry paid for Puckett's room, but didn't stay.
And that's why he had to leave for family emergency on Sunday night.
Puckett says he walked into the room set aside for him, and it looked like Barry had spent time inside at some point as well.
Like he wasn't there long. It was bought. The bed wasn't hardly slept in, but I wasn't laid in or nothing. It was just kind of like laid on or something maybe. Maybe got in there, took a shower, and that's it. Washed up and left.
Describe what the room smelled like.
Chlorine. I mean, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It smelled real strong, and I'm like, damn. That's just all I thought. Well, I found in the middle the next morning, but it just kind of like, this looks like an alibi. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way the things were.
Yeah, what he said.
I rushed home, left all my tools at the hotel, called my workers, and said, I've got a family emergency. You're going to have to figure this out on your own.
But Puckett says
but nothing to work with.
The crew was left high and dry, and the wall couldn't be completed.
When as far as the dirt and the put down there, put it behind the wall. Once you build it up, you got to you run a layer block, do dirt, get inspected, and then keep continuing on to the next layer. And then wasn't nothing like that to work with. And I got it kind of pissed me off, so I come on back.
He prepared for a month, but didn't leave any tools.
I mean, it's either foul play or an alien got her. I mean, we know aliens, that's kind of far-fetched.
I didn't do nothing wrong in the hotel. There's cameras all over that place. I did nothing wrong. I did not go to the pool, and I did not get chlorine. I'm sure that they washed their rooms with that for the COVID. I don't know. I smelled it too when I was in there.
The hotel says its pool isn't even open, an effect of ongoing coronavirus restrictions.
But the room in Denver wasn't the only stinky place Barry was in.
From what I understood, secondhand, they said there was an overwhelming smell of bleach in the home.
That information apparently was relayed by initial investigators.
I've heard the FBI lie, and I know they can legally do that in their investigations, but it just pains me to know that they are doing this to me and my family.
They did ask us, why can't we find any coolers at that house? And I said, well, I have no idea. I wouldn't know how many they had to begin with, but I'd have to assume as a hunter and a guy that maybe camps, he would have a few. And they couldn't find a single one.
There's one person who brought all these people together.
Find my little sister, take her home.
A brother.
Yes.
A big brother.
Yeah.
Desperately trying to find his missing sister.
And this needs to happen before winter. So my idea is we need to get this search done and get it done now.
Andrew Mormon waited more than 4 months as law enforcement searched the mountains around Salida and found no signs of Suzanne. Volunteers came from as far as Suzanne's hometown in Indiana, 20 hours away, to try and find their missing friend. Andrew has come to terms that his sister is likely gone.
Scared of what I will find and what I won't find. It's a double-edged sword, I'm afraid.
Around this time, September 2020, there was also some claims of another woman that Barry, was like two-timing, or he had moved on at that stage. Now, he hadn't. This woman was named Morgan Gentile, and she denied any rumors of any kind of affair, but she was a former employee of Barry's. Hired to work the Denver job the weekend Suzanne went missing. She confirmed Jeff's account of the smelly hotel room in Denver, the chlorine. Right, and she said that the day before, on the 9th of May, she had worked at a job with Barry back in Maysville. She said he was acting weird as shit that day, stressed, and he told her to go home early that day because he was going to spend some time with Suzanne, they were going to go do shit together. She later said she was scared of Barry. So, timeline is very strange. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all this is because there's so much speculation in this case. A lot of information has not been released by the police. It's what Barry was up to that weekend that's notable. When did he go to Denver? He was working at a site with Morgan in Maysville on Saturday, finished up early, then went to Suzanne. Then there were construction sounds that night at a site near Salida. Then he goes to Denver that night. The next morning, Suzanne is reported missing. Barry goes from Denver back to Maysville. Another employee takes his room, finds chlorine. Weird shit. We'll find out the truth, or at least what the police uncovered soon. Like I said though, throughout all this, Barry said he was innocent. He said he had nothing to do with whatever happened to Suzanne. And the months went by with nobody finding anything. Although pretty much everybody was looking at Barry, he himself was throwing out abduction theories. She was taken, or mountain lions, or she just had a random accident. And that's what happened to his wife of 2.5 decades. In October, the Morphew house was put up for sale. It sold the next year in March 2021.
Put it on record, Barry, right now. If people think that you did it, what would you tell them?
Absolutely not. I love my wife. I would never hurt my wife. She is the light of my and my daughter's life.
Then, on the 5th of May 2021, almost a year to the day after Suzanne Morphew vanished, guess what? Well, you don't actually have to guess, because I'll tell you. Barry was arrested. He was arrested near his home in Pontius Springs. His house was also searched. Over the course of the investigation, 70 investigators conducted over 135 search warrants, interviewed 400 people, and followed up on 1,400 tips. Despite all of this, Suzanne's body to date hasn't been found. Suzanne's brother, Andy, theorized that Suzanne was killed on May the 9th, that this was a case of domestic abuse. She never went on any bike trip. Barry was stressed on May the 9th. Then he went back, perhaps killed Suzanne, dumped her body somewhere, and then went to Denver to make it seem like, he had an alibi. Barry was charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and attempt to influence a public servant. Suzanne's sister would later say Suzanne had expressed fears about her safety, which, to no one's surprise, and about how the marriage had gone to shite. Former employees of Barry would say he had an extraordinary temper that you would not want to get on the wrong side of. No more arrests are expected, though this is just another case of when you hear hooves, think horses.
I felt great sadness, and also a relief that maybe now we are moving forward to seeking justice for my sister. I think pressures and stresses in life. I think financial pressure bears in on people very heavily, and learning contentment is very powerful. Learning to be content with what you have is a very powerful thing in this life, and it brings great joy and peace. And I don't think Barry and Suzanne had gotten there yet.
Barry has lawyered up so far, and he has not entered a plea. Then, on the 13th of May, more charges were filed against Barry Morphew. This time, felony forgery of public records and misdemeanor elections mail ballot offense, which means voter fraud. He, allegedly, during the 2020 presidential election voted in Suzanne's name, 6 months after she disappeared. When questioned by FBI investigators about this, why he did this, he said, and I quote, "Just because I wanted Trump to win. I just thought, give him, Trump, another vote. I figured all these other guys are cheating, and I know she, meaning Suzanne, she was gonna vote for him anyway, so sure, but why not?" Apparently, he didn't know it was illegal to vote for your spouse, dead or otherwise, which I find hard to believe. So that's another possible 5 years, but I think that's the least of his worries. He's got bigger fish to fry at the moment. And all of that just about brings us up to date. No doubt there will be a shit ton more stuff coming out, so expect, part 2 of this story at some point in the future, but for now we will leave it there. Weird story. The video, his plea, it's gas. I love how he shakes his head no when he's talking. I hope you're safe. It's also fake. He sounds like a child trying to pull a sickie,
I want you back so bad.
He was done from then on, really. I think Barry is innocent. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Here, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next one. Till then, please look after yourselves. I love you. Mike out.